Hey Gundam fans, welcome to another episode of Gundam Explained. Today we're continuing our look at 08MS Team. We're on the third episode called The Time Limit on Trust. But before we get started, please subscribe if you haven't. And if you're interested in the giveaway, there's a link in the description for that. And as you're watching it, if you like it, give it a thumbs up. That helped me out. So again, this episode, being the third episode, is called The Time Limit on Trust. And I think trust is a central theme in this episode, even though it seems strange how much Shiro is requiring people to trust him, yet he seems to be one of the nicest guys. It really has a lot to do with the mission. So with this, they found the Zeon factory that they have to locate within the jungle, right? And so the idea is the troops would head forward to the base, and then he was going to split off and then arrive about an hour later from the other side to help out. And so really the team is having to trust him to show up then. But along the way, he meets up with some guerrillas who don't trust him, even though he's saying how much he wants to help them and what he's willing to do. I mean, I guess you can see in that end where the guerrillas just don't like where war is going on, and it's going to be hard to trust either Zeon or the Federation that's just stepping and stomping all over everything. So you can kind of see the trust there. But it's just interesting, as with the previous episode, when Shiro got lost and they were hoping he would come back, and then he did come back and he was successful. You know, Shiro's a good guy from what we've seen with these episodes so far. Now it does open up with some pretty cool mobile suit battles right out the gate. We have, the ground Gundam we all love. We have some Zaku 2s just in the jungle going back and forth. And it's interesting because it's not like it's a direct continuation of the last episode, though in some ways it is. But also it starts off where they're already in the midst of battle. So, just kind of cool for the world building here. And so they've located the base. There's pill boxes, and I kind of like how you can see the scale. So you see the Zaku 2 here, and you see the Zeon troops a little bit below that, and then the pill boxes. And so they've scoped out the base to get some intel, and this is where then Shiro's plan goes into play, where he wants the team at a specific time to then confront the base while he's going to have a surprise attack on the other side. Here's just a cool shot. They're actually cleaning the gun. You could see Eleanor and has actually one of those like brushes you use to clean a gun. I've done that in the past when I worked private security. So it's just kind of cool to see that aspect in this, where they're cleaning out the gun of a giant gun of a mobile suit. Just again, world building, because really what they're doing is they're talking about the plan that they're putting in place here. And so this is where Shiro's figuring out, he's going to take the path around. They're saying, be careful, there's some guerrillas in the area. And the idea is, he calls them civilians, and he looks at them as, someone they need to protect along the way, not really realizing how tough these guerrillas kind of are. And Sanders seems like such a nice guy. He's always getting called out for getting his team killed. Like, is that really his fault? But he's just a nice guy, and he's just wishing Shiro well on his mission. I kind of like how this plays out. He hears something outside his cockpit. He's getting his gun ready. And here we go. The guerrillas have ambushed. Now, one interesting thing, too, is Kiki was standing in the trees watching the mobile suit walk by. And we can see specifically on Shiro's ground Gundam, on the shoulder, there's like a gray horizontal bar that goes across. It's like the specific for his, so you can like tell that it's his. But they were waiting to stop him, maybe to capture him. For what reason, I don't know, but to just get the mobile suit so they have more weaponry that they can use. And it gets kind of creepy here because they're I guess calling him out for seeing her when she was naked in the water. And I guess she's like complaining about it, and he was just saying, "Oh, you're nice to look at." And then she I guess appreciated the kind sentiment there. But interesting that was kind of the focus of it. I guess they wanted to be maybe protective of her, but then they complain that they don't even get to see her like that. So a little creepy, but let's move on. Here's Mikhail writing in his journal again. This will be a bigger deal actually later on in this episode. Okay, and this is pretty cool because we're actually seeing that backpack open up and it has the weapons inside. So, and check this out. So on the gun, and this is just some cool stuff I like. It has kind of like an adapter, something you would see in computers when it comes to like a PCI slot or USB slot in the hand. And this is where the gun fits in. So that kind of helps with not only really just making it secure, but I guess energy, potentially some computer controlled components like the AI. I remember in F91 when Seabook was getting into the Gundam and he needed to grab the gun. They're like, oh, just let the system do it. So I think that just lends to some of the AI controls that occur. But just kind of a cool, neat little world building thing they're adding in where they're not explaining it. They're just showing it. All right. So they've arrived at the guerrillas village, or the civilians village. I guess they're really just being called guerrillas because they're just trying to protect themselves as these two factions are warring amongst them. And yeah, Shiro's a prisoner and he's actually being brought to Kiki's dad. And so here he is. That is Kiki's dad. And so, I was trying to get some background information on her dad and I didn't really seem to come across much, but here I found something. It's pretty sad and I'm glad they left it out of the anime. Where in the novelization, that there's a darker change involving Kiki, where she's captured by Federation soldiers. They do some horrific stuff to her, and she commits suicide by biting her tongue. Ugh, that's pretty dark. And I understand that it's almost portraying the realities in war of what happens. It doesn't matter what side when people are put in these situations. And they're not really supervised, or just, the darkest ends of humanity tend to emerge. I'm just glad they left it out, but that's pretty dark. And so he's trying to explain to the guerrillas that he needs to be let go. His team is waiting for them and he does not want to get them killed. And that's really how he's trying to communicate that to them. It's like he can't let his friends die. And also, they talk about needing supplies. And he's like, we can help. I can give you medical supplies. I can give you whatever you want. And I guess that is a good thing. It's not that he's just trying to give him whatever he wants so he can go. It's more of, how he sees the Federation here is not only to stop Zeon, but to help the civilians. And again, even though the Federation is just as bad as the Zeon, we could tell even on both sides of the Principality of Zeon and the Federation that individual soldiers do want to do what's best for everybody. And so I'm glad that we're seeing that portrayed here. Also, I want to add something I do like about this episode is the detail in his nose. I know that is a thing that bothers me for some reason, but I do want to say they've done a good job of actually detailing his nostril in this more than normal, and the shading of it actually gives the nose depth. So he looks more like a character here. And while on the right-hand side, the pupil takes up the whole eye and there's no white on the top and bottom, at least we're seeing some white on the bottom here. And there were some other shots where the pupil does that. Again, not a big deal to everyone. I didn't really grow up on anime, but I prefer when there's enough detail in something to where I can sort of relate to it as a human character and not a cartoon character. But that. Now here's the team. They are kind of waiting, hoping that Commander's going to show up. Yeah, so they're going ahead and fighting. It's very cool just to get some more ground battles. We can see this sort of bridge, highway, street that's among the fighting. So you can see that within the civilian zones that this fighting is happening. And another thing, as Shiro was able to leave, the guerrillas agree that he can go and kind of help in the situation to see what they can get out of it. And Kiki's going along for the ride just to make sure he holds up his end of the bargain. And it's interesting how often that he refers to her as just a kid. Although she is 17, and I just bring that up because we see a lot of these, even Shiro himself, isn't he only 18, 19? He might be 20, actually, or 21. Actually, let's look that up. So he is 23, so I can see a 23-year-old seeing a 17-year-old as a kid. That's not too far apart in age, but there is some life experience and maturity changes there. Even if typically women happen to be a little more mature, I guess just how he's seeing her is as a kid, even though they still refer to seeing her in the nude and refer to her as a kid. It's a little odd, just maybe more of the cultural difference and just the way the legal system has been, like where I live in this part of the world when it comes to that. I think this is a cool shot because within these mobile suits, they have more of it's not that 360 cockpit view, and so you can kind of see the other ground Gundam over here on the other side. I don't know, just a cool shot. I love how goofy the Zeon soldier looks right here. And and another thing about this is I have noticed, other than Aina and her brother, they are really not focusing on individuals within Zeon. So there's almost these faceless pilots in these Zeon mobile suits Zaku's that are being killed, and so there's less of that attachment to the other side in terms of just blasting the mobile suits, because really the main antagonists and that whole situation is almost a separate story for now until later. So in the meantime, we kind of just get these goofy looking Zeon guys. I mean, that guy looks cool, but it's funny. It's just funny how this guy's drawn. That's cool, emerging from the water like that and just utter destruction. So that's cool. It's like a camera that was able to emerge underwater, attached to the Gundam, but where is it on the Gundam? So we see this antenna that sticks out. It looks like it's just part of the helmet, the headpiece on one side, which is very interesting, and it kind of sticks up and goes out of the water. I've never really seen that utilized anywhere else. It could have just been for the purpose of the story, but it's cool that exists because on one hand, how often would that be used? This is a ground Gundam, so I see that being more useful than in space, right? Because even if it's not underwater and the camera is sticking out, it could be just in the jungle. And maybe even standing up straight, it can go above the trees. I'm just curious how high that goes. Is there room for it to go high? Or is it just, I don't know. I'm asking questions that may not matter, but I'm just interested in the technology here. That's pretty cool to see the gorillas here helping out. I got to say, some of this animation is a little janky. I'm kind of surprised. It does remind me of some things I would see in Double Zeta. But I think what they tend to do in this series is, overall, it's drawn well. But I think to maybe save cost when they have some scenes that require a lot, if it's side characters or side elements, that has less frames of animation. Okay, I don't know if you just saw that, but it was kind of interesting how there was a lot of mismatch with the facial animations of talking and what they're saying. And obviously, I understand that it's a translation, but usually they do a good job of filling that in. Again, I think this episode seems to have pulled back on animation frames, maybe to save money, but it is kind of jarring at times. Okay, so did you just hear that? That was the new type sound effect from when Joshua and Sanders were communicating with each other. Now, it was obviously over the radio, but when she said, "Hey, did you hear that?" And he's like, "Roger," like the new type sound. So that could just be a callback to the original series just to give you that Gundam feel. Or what if we're actually being told, the audience, we're being told that these are new types, and that's why they are successful in battle in a mobile suit. Curious what you guys think. Is Joshua and Sanders a new type? All right, so this is cool. We hear the sound effect now right after that for when there's an alarm, an attack, since the original Mobile Suit Gundam. And then this cool Zeon helicopter shows up. So this is called the Gunship Heli, and I am a huge fan of this type of stuff. Like, it's cool that we get the mobile suits, but I like how we saw the DOP from the original Mobile Suit Gundam, but it's in this episode also. But then that has a counterpart that's a helicopter it was used during Vietnam quite a bit. Obviously that would be an Earth-based vehicle needing the atmosphere for the propellers to work, but it's really cool that they have something like this. So yeah, let's look at the specs here. Not too much. Vulcan gun missile launcher. It was really just in the OMS team. So when it comes to ground battles, not you know, I guess there hasn't been too much of this. It's saying that it's in the Rise from the Ashes game, which is pretty cool. I do have a video of that up. That was the game on the Dreamcast. They made a remake of it on PS3. But there is really not too much about this. I am very shocked. I mean, this is really cool. I don't know what else we would really need, but it'd be cool to see this utilized more often. All right, and so they took out the Zeons, and they're now kind of hanging out at the base because all the civilians are there. Now, all the civilians seem to be guerrilla-like in terms of the aggression and what they're trying to do. I don't know how many like innocent I don't know if that's the right term to use. Innocent civilians are among them in here. Like, that's weird. I mean, really, they're just taking their stuff. And so Shiro says, we have a deal. Anything they take, we can reorder. But they stole Mikhail's journal that he was writing in to his girlfriend. And it had nudie pictures, and they're joking about that. So that's pretty horrible. And they're taking it, and Commander's just like, anything they take, we can reorder. You can't reorder that. It's a little weird to me. Joshua's just saying, hey, you can call me Karen. And then Kiki's running up to him, I guess, kind of happy. You know, I guess Kiki's just coming around to him because realizing that Shiro really is this nice guy that really cares, except when it comes to Mikhail's journal, letting that get stolen. But anyway, it's just kind of cool now. He's kind of the ladies' man, I guess. Now they're trying to show off because really Aina is the one that he is the main connection here in this story, but he's amongst these others. And that is it for this episode. No time limit on trust. I guess really the idea is the time it takes Shiro to get to his team to help them out despite being captured by the guerrillas, and actually gaining trust from the guerrillas, even though at the end I thought it was pretty aggressive with them really just taking everything. And even the diary, I can understand if you're giving them supplies, food, medical equipment, but the rest of it was a little silly. Even it could be that was just trying to be a humorous joke, but it's just the tone didn't seem to work. Just kind of odd there. But I mean, really, that's nitpicking, because really what's cool about this episode is the type of Gundam tactical battles that were occurring. We had the use of the water. We also had that camera that stuck out. We saw the Zeon helicopter that showed up out of nowhere. And apparently that's not in a lot of stuff. And then even the guerrilla warfare, they were helping take out the Zaku's. They had their own weapons. They had grenades. So all in all, there was a lot of cool world building when it came to like the battle tactics of mobile suits on the ground. So that's what's very cool about this. So anyway, hope you liked it. Please comment about this. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and we'll talk later.